In the labyrinthine depths of the digital world, where information flowed like an unseen river and secrets were guarded by invisible firewalls, Pete Mitchell, the Maverick, found himself drawn into a new kind of battle. This wasn't about dogfights in the sky or covert operations on foreign soil. It was about the silent war waged in the shadows of the internet, a conflict where lines of code were weapons and betrayal could be delivered with a keystroke. His journey began with a cryptic message, a digital breadcrumb left by a ghost in code. The machine, hinting at a conspiracy that threatened the very fabric of national security. The message led him to a young, reclusive hacker known only as Cypher. Cypher was a prodigy, a self-taught genius who could navigate the darkest corners of the web with an almost supernatural ease. But Cypher was also a target, having stumbled upon something far larger and more sinister than mere data breaches. They had uncovered a betrayal, a network of espionage operating within the highest echelons of power, using advanced cyber warfare techniques to manipulate information and compromise critical systems. Maverick, with his weathered face and eyes, that had seen too much, recognized the look in Cypher's eyes, the same intensity, the same unwavering focus he'd seen in the best pilots, the ones who lived and breathed their craft. He understood that in this new battlefield, the rules were different, but the stakes were just as high. Lives were on the line, not just in the physical world, but in the digital one, where a single line of malicious code could bring down an entire nation. Cypher, initially wary of Maverick's military background, slowly began to trust him, seeing in the retired pilot a kindred spirit, someone who understood the importance of truth and justice, regardless of the personal cost. They explained how they had been tracking unusual data packets, anomalies in secure government networks that pointed to an authorized backdoor, a digital key being used to siphon off highly sensitive information. The scale of the operation was staggering. It wasn't just a few rogue agents. It was a sophisticated, well-funded network, seemingly operating with impunity. Cypher had managed to trace some of the data back to a seemingly innocuous shell corporation, a front for something far more insidious. The deeper they dug, the more dangerous it became. Warnings, subtle at first and increasingly overt, began to appear in Cypher's digital life. Encrypted messages, attempts to hack their systems, even physical surveillance. Maverick, drawing on his vast network of contacts, began to cross-reference Cypher's findings with his own intelligence. He found whispers of a new, highly advanced cyber weapon, codenamed Project Chimera 2.0, a chilling echo of his past encounter, being developed by a shadowy private military contractor with deep ties to foreign powers. The pieces of the puzzle were starting to fit, forming a terrifying picture of a betrayal that reached the highest levels of government. Cypher revealed that the data being siphoned off wasn't just intelligence. It was operational data, blueprints for advanced military hardware, strategic defense plans, even the personal files of key personnel. This wasn't just espionage. It was a systematic dismantling of national security, a deliberate act of sabotage from within. The implications were chilling. If this network wasn't stopped, the nation would be left vulnerable, its defenses compromised, its secrets exposed. Maverick felt a familiar surge of determination. He had faced down impossible odds before, but this was different. The enemy was unseen, operating in a realm he barely understood. Yet the core principles remained the same. Identify the threat, understand its capabilities, and neutralize it. He knew that Cypher was his key to navigating this new battlefield, a guide through the digital wilderness. He also realized the immense personal risk Cypher was taking. They were a lone wolf in a world of powerful predators, and their life was in constant danger. Maverick made a silent vow to protect them, to ensure that their courage would not be in vain. The digital whispers had broken the silence, And now, the truth, however painful, needed to be brought to light. Maverick looked at the glowing screens, at the lines of code that held the fate of nations. He knew this was just the beginning. The introduction to a mystery that would unravel in layers of digital deception and human betrayal. The code had broken the silence, and now it was time to uncover the betrayal. Before we begin, drop in the comments where you're tuning in from and hit that like button if you believe some stories were never meant to be buried. With the initial digital breadcrumbs laid bare, Maverick and Cypher embarked on a perilous journey through the digital labyrinth, a world where truth and deception were intricately woven into the fabric of the network. Cypher, with their unparalleled hacking skills, began to peel back the layers of encryption, revealing the intricate architecture of the shadow network that had infiltrated national security systems. Maverick, drawing on his deep understanding of military operations and human psychology, helped to interpret the patterns, connecting the digital dots to real-world implications. Cypher explained that the network wasn't a simple hack. It was a sophisticated, multi-layered operation designed to mimic legitimate traffic while siphoning off critical data. The perpetrators were not just skilled coders. They were master manipulators, using social engineering and psychological warfare to gain access to sensitive information. They had exploited trust, turning insiders into unwitting accomplices, or worse, willing traders. As they delved deeper, they uncovered the identities of some of the key players in the shadow network. These weren't anonymous figures hiding behind proxies. They were individuals with seemingly impeccable reputations, high-ranking officials, respected academics, and even prominent business leaders. The betrayal was far more widespread than Maverick had initially imagined, reaching into the very heart of the establishment. It was a chilling realization. The enemy was not just outside, but within. Cypher discovered that the network was not only stealing data, but also actively manipulating it, subtly altering intelligence reports, planting disinformation, and creating false narratives. This wasn't just about espionage. It was about control, about shaping perceptions and influencing decisions at the highest levels. The implications were terrifying. If they could control the information, they could control the narrative and ultimately control the nation. Maverick recalled his own experiences with disinformation campaigns during his active service, how easily narratives could be twisted, how quickly trust could erode. But this was on an entirely different scale, a digital war being waged in the shadows, with the truth as its first casualty. He understood that exposing this network would require more than just technical prowess. It would require a strategic mind, a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths, and the courage to challenge the powerful. Cypher also found evidence of a direct link between the shadow network and a foreign intelligence agency, a rival power that had long sought to undermine the nation's security. This wasn't just about personal gain or corporate espionage. It was about geopolitical dominance, a silent war being waged for control of the global stage. The stakes had just been raised exponentially. The pressure on Cypher intensified. The shadow network, realizing they were being exposed, began to retaliate with increasing ferocity. Distributed denial of service, DDoS, attacks targeted Cypher systems. Attempts were made to dox them, and even physical threats began to materialize. Maverick, ever the protector, implemented counter-surveillance measures, using his old contacts to create a protective shield around Cypher. But he knew it was a temporary solution. They needed to move fast. Cypher, despite the immense pressure, remained focused, driven by a fierce sense of justice. They were not just a hacker. They were a digital warrior, fighting for a cause they believed in. They had seen the damage the shadow network had inflicted, the lives it had ruined, the trust it had shattered, and they were determined to bring it down, no matter the personal cost. Maverick and Cypher realized that the ultimate goal of the Shadow Network was to trigger a major international incident, a false flag operation designed to destabilize global relations and create an opportunity for their foreign handlers to gain a strategic advantage. The data they had stolen, the disinformation they had spread, all pointed towards a meticulously planned scheme to ignite a powder keg of international conflict. This part of the narrative had revealed the intricate web of the Shadow Network, the identities of its key players, and the terrifying scope of their ambition. Maverick and Cypher were now on a collision course with powerful forces, both digital and human. The code had broken the silence, and now the battle to uncover the betrayal was about to escalate, moving from the shadows of the digital world to the harsh light of reality. As Maverick and Cypher delved deeper into the digital labyrinth, the Shadow Network's true nature began to emerge, revealing a chilling conspiracy that reached into the highest echelons of power. The stakes escalated dramatically as they uncovered not just espionage, but a deliberate plot to destabilize global relations through a meticulously planned false flag operation. The battle for truth was no longer confined to the digital realm. It was spilling into the real world, threatening to ignite a geopolitical powder keg. Cypher, with relentless determination, managed to pinpoint the mastermind behind the Shadow Network, a highly respected, seemingly incorruptible figure known as the Architect. The Architect was not a hacker, but a brilliant strategist, a former intelligence operative who had meticulously built this network over decades, leveraging personal connections, exploiting vulnerabilities, and manipulating events from behind the scenes. Their motive was not financial gain, but a twisted ideology, a belief that global order could only be achieved through controlled chaos, and that they were the ones destined to orchestrate it. Maverick recognized the chilling logic of the Architect. It was the same kind of cold, detached reasoning he had seen in some of the most dangerous adversaries he had faced, individuals who believed they were above morality, playing a grand game with human lives as pawns. He knew that confronting the Architect would be a psychological battle as much as a physical one, a clash of wills between a man who valued truth and a mind that thrived on deception. Cypher discovered that the Architect's ultimate plan involved triggering a series of coordinated cyber attacks on critical infrastructure in multiple nations, designed to create widespread panic and distrust. This chaos would then be exploited by their foreign handlers, allowing them to seize strategic advantages and reshape the global power balance. The false flag operation was designed to appear as if it originated from a rival nation, escalating tensions to the brink of war. Maverick and Cypher realized they had to act fast. They couldn't just expose the Architect. They had to prevent the false flag operation from being executed. The plan was audacious. They would use Cypher's skills to infiltrate the Architect's central command system, not to destroy it, but to expose its operations in real time to a global audience. This would be a live broadcast of Betrayal, digital unmasking that would leave no room for denial. To achieve this, they needed a physical point of entry, a way to bypass the Architect's formidable digital defenses. Maverick, drawing on his deep knowledge of covert operations, identified a weakness, a secure but rarely used physical access point to the Architect's hidden server farm, located deep within a seemingly abandoned government facility. It was a high-risk, high-reward mission, requiring precision, stealth, and a willingness to face direct confrontation. Maverick assembled a small, trusted team for the physical infiltration. Himself, for his tactical expertise and ability to handle high-pressure situations, and a former Special Forces operative, a silent and deadly individual known as Shadow, who specialized in infiltration and exfiltration. Cypher would remain at a secure remote location, guiding them through the digital landscape, providing real-time intelligence and bypassing internal security systems. The infiltration was a tense ballet of shadows and silence. Maverick and Shadow, navigated through layers of security, bypassing laser grids, motion sensors, and armed patrols. Cypher, from their remote location, provided a constant stream of updates, disabling cameras, unlocking doors, and diverting attention. It was a symphony of coordinated action, a testament to the power of trust and teamwork. They reached the server farm, a cavernous room filled with the hum of machines and the blinking lights of countless servers. This was the heart of the Architects. Operation, the digital brain that orchestrated the Shadow network. As Shadow secured the perimeter, Maverick connected Cypher's portable terminal to the main server, initiating the data transfer that would expose the Architect to the world. But the Architect was not easily defeated. They had anticipated a counterattack, and their defenses were formidable. As Cypher began the data upload, a digital countermeasure was activated, attempting to corrupt the data and erase all traces of the Shadow network. It was a race against time, a desperate struggle between truth and deception. Suddenly, alarms blared and armed guards swarmed the server farm. The Architect had been alerted. Maverick and Shadow found themselves in a desperate firefight, defending Cypher as they raced against the clock to complete the upload. Maverick, with his years of combat experience, moved with fluid precision, neutralizing threats, protecting his team. Shadow, a blur of motion, disarmed and incapacitated guards with silent efficiency. Cypher, under immense pressure, pushed through the digital resistance, their fingers flying across the keyboard, lines of code flashing across the screen. Progress bar crawled agonizingly slowly, but it was moving. The truth was being uploaded, byte by byte, to a global audience. Just as the last byte was transferred, the Architect appeared, a figure of cold, calculating menace. They were not surprised, not angry, but rather a chillingly calm presence. "You think you've won, Maverick?" The Architect's voice was a low, resonant hum. "You've merely exposed a small part of a much larger game. The seeds of chaos have already been sown." Maverick, his weapon raised, met the Architect's gaze. "Maybe so, but the world will know who planted them." The Architect merely smiled, a chilling, knowing smile. "And what will they do with that knowledge, Maverick? The truth is a burden, not a liberation." As the authorities stormed the server farm, the Architect initiated a self-destruct sequence, a final act of defiance designed to erase all traces of their operation. Maverick and Shadow, with Cypher's terminal secured, made a hasty retreat, the sound of explosions echoing behind them. They had won the battle, but the war for truth was far from over. This part of the narrative had reached its climax, with the unmasking of the Architect and the desperate battle to expose their conspiracy. Maverick and Cypher had faced their most formidable adversary, and while they had secured a victory, the chilling words of the Architect lingered, a reminder that the fight for truth is an ongoing struggle. Now, the consequences of their actions would unfold, revealing the true impact of the code that broke the silence and uncovered a betrayal. The digital unmasking of the Architect sent shockwaves across the globe. The live broadcast of their hidden operations, orchestrated by Cypher and facilitated by Maverick, ripped through the carefully constructed veil of secrecy, exposing a vast network of digital espionage and political manipulation. The world watched in stunned silence as the truth, raw and undeniable, unfolded before their eyes. The Architect's chilling words, "The seeds of chaos have already been sown," echoed in the minds of millions, a grim prophecy of the instability. To come. The immediate aftermath was a whirlwind of chaos and recrimination. Governments scrambled to assess the damage, to identify compromised systems, and to reassure their citizens. International relations, already strained, frayed further, as nations pointed fingers and demanded answers. The false flag operation, though thwarted in its full destructive potential, had left a trail of distrust and suspicion that would take years to heal. Maverick, Ghost, and Dr. Petrova, now publicly recognized as key figures in exposing the conspiracy, found themselves at the center of a global media storm. They were hailed as heroes by some, reviled as traitors by others. Maverick, ever the stoic, navigated the onslaught of interviews and press conferences with a quiet dignity, his focus remaining on the truth. Ghost, the reclusive hacker, found himself thrust into the spotlight, his anonymity shattered, but his resolve strengthened by the impact of their actions. Dr. Petrova, the AI ethicist, used her newfound platform to advocate for stronger international regulations on cyber warfare and autonomous systems, arguing that the Chimera incident and the architect's plot were stark warnings of a future where technology, unchecked by ethics, could lead to global catastrophe. Investigations were launched in multiple countries, leading to a cascade of arrests and resignations. High-ranking officials, military leaders, and corporate executives, once thought untouchable, were implicated in the architect's network. The scale of the betrayal was breathtaking, revealing how deeply the tendrils of corruption and foreign influence had penetrated democratic institutions. The public, enraged by the deception, demanded accountability and systemic change. The architect, despite their attempt to erase all traces of their operation, was eventually apprehended. Their capture was a testament to the relentless pursuit of justice by Maverick's team and the international law enforcement agencies. During interrogation, the architect remained defiant, convinced of the righteousness of their cause, arguing that their actions, though extreme, were necessary to prevent a greater, unseen collapse. Their twisted logic served as a chilling reminder of the ideological battles being fought in the shadows, where the lines between good and evil often blurred. The trial of the architect and their co-conspirators became a global spectacle. Evidence presented was overwhelming: the deciphered code, the intercepted communications, the testimonies of former network members who, facing prosecution, chose to cooperate. The trial laid bare the intricate mechanisms of the shadow network, revealing how seemingly innocuous data points could be weaponized, how trust could be exploited, and how a single individual's twisted vision could threaten global stability. Maverick, testifying as an expert witness, spoke with a quiet authority about the human cost of such betrayals, the erosion of trust, and the dangers of unchecked power. He emphasized that while technology could be a powerful tool, it was ultimately the human element, the choices made, the ethics upheld, the values defended, that determined its impact. His words resonated deeply, reminding the world that even in the age of digital warfare, human integrity remained paramount. Cypher, though remaining anonymous, provided crucial technical expertise to the prosecution, their digital fingerprints guiding investigators through the labyrinthine data trails. Their work was instrumental in securing convictions, proving that even the most sophisticated digital conspiracies could be unraveled by determined and skilled individuals. The convictions of the architect and their co-conspirators marked a significant victory, but Maverick knew it was not the end of the war. The seeds of chaos, as the architect had warned, had indeed been sown. The incident had exposed vulnerabilities, not just in cybersecurity, but in the very fabric of trust between nations and within societies. The world was now more aware, but also more fractured, grappling with the implications of a new era of warfare, where the enemy could be anyone, anywhere, operating in the unseen depths of the digital realm. Maverick, in his quiet moments, reflected on the shifting sands of power. The old ways of warfare were fading, replaced by a new, more insidious conflict. But he also saw hope. The exposure of the architect's network had forced a global reckoning, a realization that new rules, new ethics, and new forms of cooperation were desperately needed. He had played his part, not as a pilot in the sky, but as a guardian of truth. In the digital wilderness, he knew that the fight for transparency and accountability would be ongoing, a constant vigilance against those who sought to exploit technology for nefarious purposes. But he also knew that there were others, like Cypher and Petrova, who would continue the fight, armed with knowledge, integrity, and an unwavering commitment to justice. The code had broken the silence, and the truth, once uncovered, could never be fully buried again. This part of the narrative had detailed the profound aftermath of the betrayal, the fall of the powerful, and the enduring struggle for truth in a rapidly evolving world. The dust settled, but the echoes of the architects' betrayal continued to reverberate across the digital and geopolitical landscapes. The convictions of the conspirators marked a significant victory, yet Pete Mitchell, the Maverick, knew that the war for truth was far from over. The incident had served as a stark, undeniable lesson. The digital realm was a new frontier of conflict, and vigilance was no longer an option, but a necessity. In the wake of the scandal, a global initiative for digital ethics and cybersecurity was launched, spearheaded by Dr. Lena Petrova. Her committee, now with unprecedented international backing, began drafting comprehensive treaties and protocols for the responsible development and deployment of AI and cyber technologies. Petrova, once a marginalized voice, had become a global leader, her insights shaping the future of digital governance. She ensured that the lessons learned from Project Chimera and the Architects Network were etched into the very foundation of these new regulations, preventing future abuses of power and technology. Cypher, the enigmatic hacker, found a new purpose in the light. While maintaining their anonymity, they became a crucial, albeit unseen, consultant for various international cybersecurity agencies. Their unique ability to navigate the digital underworld and anticipate emerging threats proved invaluable. Cypher dedicated their skills to building stronger digital defenses, developing advanced countermeasures, and training a new generation of ethical hackers, transforming the tools of deception into instruments of protection. They were the silent guardian of the digital frontier, ensuring that the code that once broke the silence would now stand as a bulwark against future betrayals. Maverick, in his quiet retirement, continued to be a voice of wisdom and experience. He often visited Elias Thorne, the veteran whose story had intertwined with the Chimera incident, finding solace and shared understanding in their conversations. Elias, now a powerful advocate for mental health in the military, had found his own form of peace, transforming his trauma into a platform for healing and change. Their bond, forged in the crucible of shared battles, served as a testament to the enduring human spirit in the face of overwhelming odds. Maverick's role evolved from a pilot to a storyteller, a chronicler of the unseen wars. He understood that the human element remained paramount even in an increasingly automated world. The choices made by individuals, the ethical lines drawn, and the courage to speak truth to power were what truly mattered. He emphasized that technology was merely a tool, its impact determined by the hands that wielded it and the intentions that guided it. He often reflected on the architect's chilling final words: "The seeds of chaos have already been sown." Maverick knew this to be true. The digital landscape was constantly evolving, and new threats would inevitably emerge. But he also believed in the resilience of humanity, its capacity for learning, adaptation, and ultimately for choosing the path of justice and truth over chaos and deception. He visited the memorial for the victims of the Operation Shadow. Betrayal, a quiet place of reflection. There were no grand monuments, just simple stones bearing names, a stark reminder of the human cost of unchecked ambition and betrayal. Maverick stood there, a silent sentinel, honoring the fallen and reaffirming his commitment to ensuring their stories were never forgotten. He looked out at the horizon, a vast expanse of sky and possibility. The world was a complex place, filled with both darkness and light. But in the enduring echoes of the battles fought, and in the unwavering commitment of those who chose to stand for what was right, Maverick saw a path forward, a path where the lessons of the past illuminated the way, and where the promise of a new tomorrow, built on transparency and trust, was within reach. He turned to the camera, his gaze steady and profound, reflecting the wisdom of a life lived on the edge, and the quiet resolve of one who had found his true mission. His voice, now a familiar comfort, resonated with the weight of experience and the unwavering belief in the power of truth. Some ghosts don't haunt us, they protect us. If this story moved you, let us know below, and don't forget to subscribe for the next declassified Maverick file. Maverick offered a faint, knowing smile, a silent acknowledgement of the ongoing fight. The legacy of the code that broke the silence and uncovered a betrayal would live on, a cautionary tale and a beacon of hope in the Maverick Chronicles. And he, Pete Mitchell, the Maverick, would continue to tell these stories, ensuring that no lesson was forgotten and that no truth remained buried.